Welcome to the Human Conversation podcast with Jules White, the real dragon slayer, author and entrepreneur sales coach. Tune in weekly for human conversation about business and sales. Enjoy business expert interviews, educational episodes, and virtual cuppers with entrepreneur business owners. So grab yourself a cuppa and enjoy. Here is your host, Jules White.
So welcome everybody to the Human Conversation. I've got a fantastic guest with me. As always, they're all fantastic, but this guy I love. We met on LinkedIn, and Andy Barden from the Unconventional Boss, we're going to find out all about what that actually means, is with me. Andy, welcome to the Human Conversation.
Thank you very much. Very pleased to be here.
It's lovely to have a chat with you because, as I said, we talk on LinkedIn, but just usually through the conversation, text-wise. I'll comment on your fantastic posts and we'll have a little bit of banter. But that's about where it stops usually, which is such a shame. So this is awesome. I'm so pleased to have you here. Right, so I do tend to start my conversations with, well, what was it that you wanted to do when you left school? Because it's kind of a cool question. So tell us, what did you want to be? Okay,
so nothing based on what I do now. I left school, I stayed on at school to do art. I did product design for a year, then I went on to college and did 2 more years of that. But between 17 and 19 at art college, with no teacher to tell you what to do or where to be at any time, that was just the worst thing for me in the world. We were 10 minutes from our local huge shopping centre, Bluewater. So I just spent most of my day in Bluewater eating McDonald's and looking at things I shouldn't have been looking at. And I think I got to the end of that 2-year course and realised, because I was working as well, I was working in retail from 16, part-time, earning quite good money. And I just got to the point where I thought, this working business and being in school and education and stuff just isn't for me. And that was evident in the fact that I just couldn't apply myself to it. I'd rather have been working and earning money. So that went at 19. And so my dream of being an artist or a designer went out the window with my 2 failed years of college. And then I kind of stayed in retail for a bit after that. And then I kind of got to 21, 22 and I had a decision to make. And that was, do I carry on being a salesperson in a really tough environment, or do I pursue a management career, which I felt like I had something there in me that said, do you know what, that's a route that you should take. And at 21, 22, you're still very young.
That's really young to be deciding, do I carry on in sales or do I go for management? So that's quite, it's either very big forward planning or perhaps, you were just driven within that industry. What industry were you in predominantly?
Well, it was electrical retail. So I was working for COMET before they obviously went under. And yeah, I'd been there since 16. I'd done nearly 6 years at the point where I said, I'm at a crossroads. I'd tired of just the day-to-day selling, but I like the company, I love the people, and I just thought, you know what, this for me is a progression, it's the next step, it's what I feel like I can add value in. Even at such a young age, I did feel that. I'd probably grown up quite quickly because I'd kind of moved out of home at 19 and had to learn different. I mean, don't get me wrong, I went back. That was a failure, a big failure. But at least I'd had a year out and had to learn to stand on my own 2 feet. So I felt like I was probably quite an old head on young shoulders, even at 21, 22. So, and that was that. And I was in management until I was 31, in retail, in COMET until I was 31.
Wow. That's a long time. And, retail is very close to my heart, as you probably know from the fact that my dad ran a shop, for years as I was growing up as a little girl. So it was just, I think it's a passion of mine, retail, if I'm really honest. I still love that whole retail environment. And my business I took into Dragon's Den was a retail business. funnily enough. So
Yeah.
do you still now work in that same sector then, Andy?
No. So at 31, an ex-colleague of mine who was also a friend had left a year previous, and he'd gone into a digital marketing company. He knew someone that knew someone, and that got him in. And I think he got him because he's got all the chat, the sort of people, sell ice to an Eskimo type. And he'd got in a year before me, and there was only 6 or 7 people in the business when he went there. And he called me up about 2 months before I was getting married that year, and he said, "Have you had enough of retail yet?" And I went, "Do you know what? I actually have. I've done it for 15 years. I've only ever really worked in COMET. The hours aren't great. We all know that. Anyone that's been in retail, the hours aren't great. I'm about to get married. Obviously, we plan to have a family." He said, "Well, I might have something for you. It's a bit of a risk, but it's an up and coming business. You're still selling, but you're in the digital space as opposed to the retail space, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, good commissions." I spoke to my wife about it, who obviously wasn't my wife at the time. And we just said, "Look, if you're going to do something like that, do it now while we've not got the kids, we've not got the big house, we've not got a big mortgage." And I'm still there. I went and we spoke, and obviously the idea behind bringing myself, the colleague that got me the job, and we've actually brought 2 more ex-COMET managers since then. The idea behind that was, as the company grew, the MD wanted senior managers in positions that already knew how to manage, that knew how to build teams.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because you've got management of retail and then management of digital marketing. I'm lucky to have been in both. So, a bit like you really, where you've had that experience of both now. But was it really different actually being a manager in that different space?
It was. I'm a much better manager now than I was 10 years ago. But I don't think that's necessarily because I'm in digital as opposed to retail. I think that's because I got married and had children. And I learned a lot more about people, patience. Before I was married, I was living on my own. I'd bought my own place. I just pleased myself. And I think when you live like that for too long, just on your own, with no children or no partner or whatever, you tend to think that the world just revolves around you and that everything you do is right because no one's there to sense check it. And then I got married, and then I had someone there to sense check it and actually bring me back down to earth a lot with some of the things that I do and did. And it really does open your mind up to the way different people think, and that changed the way I manage completely. So yes, the sectors are different. Managing in retail was a lot more, it was tougher in many ways because the characters are very tough. A lot of the people in retail perhaps were there as a stopgap sometimes. They weren't necessarily bought in all the time to the journey of the vision of the company, especially if it was a big corporate, because often that vision didn't really get shared with the people anyway. So you were constantly managing people's behaviour that perhaps was quite frustrating at times because you knew they didn't really want to be there. Whereas in the digital space, I think, especially in our company, we've got a lot of people that are very bought into the vision because we share it all the time. Everyone's involved. It's so much easier. It's so much easier to be more effective, I think.
I totally can resonate with that point, and it makes so much sense to me logically, because this whole behavior thing, attitude, the fact we're all so very different, and like you say, if you've got somebody who's not really bought into business, they're just there to get their Saturday paycheck, it's a stopgap, as you said. So there isn't this kind of relationship and that values-based relationship, is there, in that relationship? Whereas like the guys you're working with in the digital agency, you completely understand it's just a different scenario. I like that. I like seeing that perspective because I think it teaches us a lot about people and why you're enjoying it so much, to be able to manage people who are actually invested, just emotionally, if nothing else. So tell me more. So you've been doing this for how long in the digital agency?
So 9 years now. So I got married in June, and knew I'd left COMET. I thought, right, I'll do it all at once. Why not? Why not give myself that headache all at once? So I left on the Wednesday, got married on the Friday, had 2 weeks off after the wedding, honeymoon and whatnot, and then 2 weeks started in the new job. And that was in the July 2011.
Great.
So it's been nearly 9.5 years. And obviously the plan was to put us in these positions as the teams grew, and that's happened. The guy that actually got me the job, he's now left, and there's 2 of us left that manage the core of the business, myself and my colleague, and we've got sort of 19, 20 staff. I've got 17, he's got 19, and then you've got sort of other smaller departments within the business. So it's grown as we predicted it would. Exactly what they wanted to achieve has been achieved. Myself and my colleague are managing the process day to day within the business, experienced managers. So that's worked really, really well. But as I say, I think over the last probably 5 or 6 years, I've become a very, very different manager. My core is still the same. That won't change.
Yeah.
But in terms of the things I prioritize within a management process has massively changed over the last probably 5 or 6 years.
It's quite evident from just what you've said so far that you stay in these companies for quite a long time. Do you think that's a loyalty, or what do you think makes you stay in a business for a long time?
I think there is a loyalty there. The MD of my current company, the owner who started it, he's always looked after me. I think he's always seen value in me and what I bring to the business. I'm not. There's myself and my colleague who I mentioned before, who's ex-COMET. We could not be more different. He's very analytical, very numbers based, very in amongst the detail all the time of the stats and what's going on and problem solving. Whereas I'm all about people. So if someone else wants to do all that stuff, that's great, because it's not my bag. But the people element, which for me, and we'll come on to that in a bit, is always the bottom line. That's always the root of any challenges that are going on in business. For me, it always comes down to the people.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. That's where I get my biggest buzz from.
That's why we have connected. I truly believe that, because I think we totally believe that it is about the people, and that's where it starts. And I do that in sales. I had a podcast interview which actually went live today, and the guy was asking me about targets, numbers, and my methodology, and I'm like, targets, yeah, but they come if you look after the people and you build the relationships. That comes. My whole philosophy is that, and I know you believe the same in that respect. So look, I'm itching to find out what is happening next for Andy.
What's next is something that's been in the pipeline for a while. And, the great thing about my boss is that I've been very transparent with him in terms of what I want to try and achieve on a personal level. And that the Unconventional Boss project, which I kind of launched about a year ago, just as a brand on LinkedIn, just to give myself a bit of a separation from me as an individual and what is this? And I kind of said to him that I now want to turn that into an actual business, because I know there is a need for what I am offering in lots of different businesses globally. But if we just focus on the UK just for a minute, and he was completely okay with it. The reality is I've got my guys to a point at work where we're super organised, we're super structured. I've got some fantastic team members that know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. For me, the Unconventional Boss project is almost just an extension of what I do day to day anyway.
Yeah.
Just almost adding people into that team of 17, junior managers that need that support that I give to my 6 team leaders that I work with every day anyway.
I was going to say, how lovely is it that you've got a boss that you can just have these lovely, transparent conversations with? That's really good, isn't it?
It's amazing. He said to me a while ago, he accepts that I'm going to be honest with him, and I think he likes that. He likes that honesty. He likes that. I don't pay him lip service, but I have the utmost respect for him as a business owner, as a leader. And yeah, I don't think everyone feels that they can have that honest conversation with him, but I don't think that's him. I think a lot of people just don't feel confident in it themselves.
So is the plan that you ultimately exit this business to be full-time in this business of yours?
There's no plans for that at the moment. My goal for as long as I can is to have the two. And I'll tell you why. The business itself is basically me going in and supporting junior managers within businesses. Now, the reason there is a hole in the market for that is because so many companies, the MD or the owner has to release work. They release it to their whoever says, yep, I want to step up. I want to be a manager. I want to sort of whatever that looks like. And they release that job and they release that pressure and the job list. But that person doesn't know what they're doing. They have no idea how to engage people, how to build teams, how to build structure. And inevitably, they either fail and bring the business down in the process of doing that. But you don't necessarily need someone in the business full time to be able to coach and mentor those people.
Yeah.
You just need it when they need it. And I think the reason I would love to run the two together is because what my day job does, it keeps me humble. It keeps me practicing every day new ways of engaging and interacting with my own team. Because if I stopped that, I wouldn't get that day-to-day interaction, that day-to-day practice with people that I know and understand, that I know will be honest with me about if I'm doing something wrong. So for as long as I possibly can, I would love to do the two.
Okay, so how are you going to split it then? Here's me, I'm going all strategic on you now, Andy, How are you going to split the time, do you think?
The two people that I'm working with at the moment, they completely understand the situation that I've got a day job. So we speak in lunch breaks. I'll use my lunch breaks. We speak after work. We speak at the weekends. They're very on board with the fact that I'm fitting it around something that's already in place, and that completely works for them. If someone came to me and said, "I want to work with you, but you need to be available whenever I want, even if it interferes with your job," unfortunately, for now, that's not going to be for me.
Yeah.
Because I am very respectful of the fact that I have that job, and a boss that is brilliant, really, in the way that he handles things and the way that he allows people to go off and do their own projects. And I'm not the only one in the company that's trying to do different things with themselves. And not only that, I never ever want to be accused of neglecting those 6 team leaders.
Yeah.
And the rest of that team.
Yeah.
They are super important to me, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am anyway. So for me, it's finding that balance. And with the 2 guys that I'm speaking to at the moment and working with, we've found that quite nicely, and that works. I think realistically, I could probably work with 3 people at any one time, as well as doing my job.
Yeah. I think the other thing to consider, which I know you will have thought about, is the how it then impedes on your work life balance.
Yes.
You've got 2 small children, and your wonderful wife, of course.
Of course.
But yeah, there is definitely a balance point to this where you're transitioning, and I think it's a great period for you to learn huge amounts about how you do want to move this forward, whether it stays as this 3 people that you work with alongside for forever. It could, but actually it might be, as you say, that it becomes a business in its own right, which is exciting. I think
it is.
Ultimately.
It is exciting, and I think, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't start it to only ever work with 3 people at once.
Yeah.
That I know for a fact there would be no hard feelings within the business that I'm in. But at the same time, I would never want them to think that, certainly in the short to medium term, that I'm just going to decide, oh, do you know what? Sod this, I'm gonna go, because I'm content building it while this is still here. but who knows?
Who knows? And
Who
I think,
knows?
nothing ever stays the same, Andy.
No.
Ultimately, that's really the way life is. So there's for me, there's this little air of excitement around it for you, but then maybe I am actually the maverick type, if you like, with some of
Yeah.
the things I've done. I'm mental, I think, if I look back, goodness me. But I want to also just ask you about, there's a couple of things really that have always stood out for me about you, and I talk about UHP, your unique human proposition. So you'll know about USP and how we were always
Yeah.
told to sell the USP. What makes you different? Oh my goodness, Andy, you have this amazing UHP in my mind, which for the listeners, as you know, if you listen regularly, it's about who Andy is and it's about who we all are as individuals. We're all so
Yeah.
beautifully unique. So you
Yeah.
do these amazing videos. Okay, I just got to put this in there because that's how I first started to follow you. I'd catch your videos on LinkedIn, and I'd be howling with laughter, and just sitting there thinking, how does this guy make these videos? They're so cool. And you'd be playing 2, if not more, characters within
Yeah.
these videos, but always to highlight a really great message about leadership.
Yeah.
Actually, so just tell us a bit more about the magic behind the videos, Andy.
Do you know what? The first thing to mention is if anyone actually listens to this and then goes and looks at my LinkedIn feed, they'll have to scroll a long way to see these videos, because videos, for me, they were the thing that put me on the map, really. In LinkedIn terms, if someone said to me, what was the thing that stood you apart? It was those videos. And I went through a period of 4 or 5 months where I was scripting them. I was kind of so in the zone with these videos, but they take so long to edit, and it was evenings. And then, as we've just said, there is only so many hours in the day, and work's a lot busier now than it was probably 18 months or a year ago when I was really doing those. But the idea behind them was to just do something that no one else was doing. It was, and I knew I kind of, if anyone ever said to me, if you could be something now and you had no one to worry about and it was just you, I would want to be an actor.
Yeah.
I would want to be an actor. I honestly, genuinely believe I could be a good actor.
You could, definitely.
And I think that was almost a way of me doing that and getting that out.
Yeah.
But in a businessy way as well. And yeah, some of them were very popular. And I used to get a little bit down when I'd put a load of effort into a video and it would bomb.
Yeah.
And I think, oh no, I've got to repost that. I've put far too much effort in.
The thing is, that's so common for us as business owners. I think this whole kind of visibility piece, how many likes and how many comments, it is a really hard thing to deal with, isn't it? And LinkedIn's algorithms recently have definitely changed, and my views went right down from what they were, and I wasn't doing anything different in my mind, But back to the videos, honestly, now I do know that you've got them on YouTube as well.
I do have them all on YouTube.
Yes. So if anybody is thinking they have to flick through their LinkedIn feed, no, they don't.
No, that is very true.
YouTube.
Very true. I should have plugged that.
I did it for you.
Completely forgot about that. Again, YouTube, that hasn't been updated for a while, but it doesn't need to be. If anyone wants to actually go and see those videos, someone requested a couple of weeks ago for me to reshare some of the videos, and I reshared the one when the wife calls you at work.
Yes.
Which seems to be the favourite. That was the one that got the most engagement on LinkedIn. And when I look at them now, like I've just bought myself a new microphone to do videos with, and when I look at those videos now, the sound quality is appalling. Like, it's really echoey because our kitchen's quite big and it's got no curtains up or whatever, and it's very echoey in there. But back then, that didn't seem to matter. It was more about the actual concept of the video.
Yeah, it's the concept and the message, Andy. And I don't even think it matters as much as we all think even now, because I
Well,
think,
probably.
it's about whether you are compelling. It's about whether you are unique, which is why I've mentioned it. I'll always remember you for those videos. That'll be that first thing I think about when I think of Andy. And that's a really good thing, because it made you very unique. And they're evergreen in my mind. They're very evergreen. Do you not think?
I do. I could go back to them. I could find time in my schedule and say, do you know what? And based on what you've just said, and the fact that I have had people say to me, when are they coming again? I feel almost under pressure to start them again. But it was the time. It was the time, because editing. I mean, the one with when the wife calls, and then I did another one which was office gossip, which was 4 minutes long. And I mean, I can't believe I got all of those people to watch a 4-minute video on LinkedIn. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
I think it got over 100 likes and probably the same amount of comments for a 4-minute video. It's mad. I had a few people that had commented on it saying, I never thought I would watch a 4-minute video on LinkedIn, but I just had to watch this. I watched the first 30 seconds and I was just hooked. And I think I played like 5 different characters in that one as well. Yeah, I even put on a Welsh accent in that.
Well, that was the other thing, is you made the characters as well. You didn't just play the parts. You kind of made them real characters, which was really fascinating. You'd have a cap on in one and then not in another. And
no glasses.
Yeah, and that stuff was just so clever. And so I think the other thing also, though, if I can say, is that sometimes, even though that's kind of what defines you when people think about you, I think the pressure bit is something to consider, that you actually shouldn't put yourself under the pressure of having to keep doing it and doing it that same way. I think it's about doing it quite spontaneously. When I post on LinkedIn, I rarely plan my content until I'm lying in bed, the alarm's gone off, and I'm thinking, what should I talk about today?
Yeah.
And they're the best posts, actually. So it's quite interesting, isn't it, when you think about all that pressure we put ourselves under. But you've got so much to repurpose. I don't think you need to be making videos for some time yet, really.
I've got a few there that I could definitely reshare. Because we're a year down the line from when I shared most of them. And I've obviously got a lot of new connections in that time. And a lot of people that are seeing stuff now that weren't seeing stuff a year ago, which is a really crazy thing with LinkedIn at the moment. I'm just not seeing so many of my connections' content.
Same for me.
But that's a whole other topic that could go on forever.
Yeah, we keep showing up, Andy. That's the key, is just keep showing up, I think. So I just want to kind of, I mean, I could talk to you forever because, well, A, I can talk forever, but B, you're so interesting. I think one of the things I'd like to just be able to tell the listeners is, in this role as the unconventional boss, firstly, where did the name come from?
I originally started a project called the Unconventional Dad. My eldest son is autistic, and my wife and I found ourselves doing things maybe slightly differently from normal parents or parents without autistic children, just to try and get a response, or to try and understand what was going on in Jake's mind. A lot of people over the years have said to me that my style of management is not right. They've said to me, "Oh, you're too involved with the team, or you're too friendly, or you know too much about them." And I disagreed with all of them, and always have. It's kind of struck me that I'm in the minority, because everyone thinks that this certain way of doing things is the conventional way. So that must make me unconventional. But actually, the way I do things, in my mind, is the way that everyone should do things. So the project really is about changing an unconventional style into a conventional style that actually delivers better results.
I love it. Andy, isn't that great? And again, so many similarities. I'm kind of trying to do that with sales in so many ways. I just love this whole concept. So if somebody who's listening is thinking, actually, do you know what? I've got a couple of managers.
Yeah.
I really think it would be great if Andy could work with them. Where do they need to go? How do they get in touch with you, Andy?
They can either DM me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way, email or LinkedIn, and then we can instantly arrange a call or a Zoom or whatever. It's business owners, it's high-end sort of senior people within those companies, small or large. You know, someone said to me the other day about startups. Perfect example of a business owner that started a company. They've taken staff on. They need to release some pressure to staff that want the responsibility. They want to take it on, but they don't know how. You don't want to bring someone into the business full time and pay them some ridiculous sum of money to actually come and sit on their shoulder all day long, because that's just going to annoy that person. These people that you put in these management positions, these junior management positions, they're already enthusiastic.
Yeah.
They're already bought into the business. So the last thing they want is this middleman coming in and just telling them and thinking they know better. What I do is work with them at a much more distant level, just to sense check some of the stuff that they're doing, to create structure for them, to create time for the owner, and then I just check in with the business owner however regularly they define. And I don't need to be in someone's business 40 hours a week to do that.
Is it, I suppose at the moment I know the answer to this question, but does it tend to be online that you'll kind of chat with them and stuff?
Yeah. So obviously everything at the moment, because of the situation we're in, would be over the phone, whether it's Skype or Zoom or whatever, or just old-fashioned picking up the phone and talking. The two guys that I'm working with at the moment, a lot of that has been phone. And then follow-ups. So it might be that they've got a situation they want to discuss. We discuss it over the phone for 20 minutes or whatever. And then I will spend a certain percentage of my evening back-ending that conversation as a document to send them, so that they've always got that piece of information that they can reference back against on that conversation.
Great.
And that seems to be working really well for those two people.
People by people, right? I know, it's true. And we hear this, don't we? And people go, that old one. But it's true.
Is so true.
It's so true. And there's a reason why they want to work with you. And they probably followed you for some time on your social media. And it just feels good. And it'll be shared values and all those other things that we've already talked about, which is amazing. I think what's exciting about what you're doing, Andy, is it's just going to evolve. It's going to beautifully and organically evolve into what it needs to be. And I absolutely love that about this project. So final kind of advice, words to the listeners from a man who has really trodden his career for long periods of time, and now is also setting out on another new venture and project. What's your advice to somebody who's just starting out as a new manager?
My advice would be, whatever you feel is your benchmark of behaviour based on managers you've had in the past, don't necessarily look at that as the way that you move forward. Bottom line, and there's lots of ways that you can get to this stage, and working with me is definitely one of them. Your people are everything. If they don't want to get out of bed in the morning, you're stuffed. You have to create an environment where they wake up in the morning and don't mind logging on. Don't mind going into no one's going to jump out of bed and sing a song every morning. That they have to want to get out of bed, because too much of the UK population don't want to get out of bed in the morning. And that's because of the employer. Nine times out of 10, that is based on the employer. It's not the job. It's the people that they work for. Yeah.
Such a good point, Andy. Oh my goodness, I've loved our chat. It's so cool, isn't it? And I love what you're doing. I love all of your acting skills. I love your videos. I want all of the listeners to go and subscribe to your YouTube channel for a starting point. We'll put the link in. And I can't wait to carry on watching your journey, Andy. Maybe there'll be a part 2 in a year or so when I'm still doing this podcast, and you can come back and tell us where you're at.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be amazing. That would be awesome.
Thank you so much for joining me, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And listeners, I hope you are inspired by this fabulous man, because when you think about what he's done, he's been very brave. He tells me he's not courageous and he's not maverick, and yet he chooses to change the way we look at managing and leadership. There's some food for thought. Thanks for listening. Whatever platform you've listened to, please like and subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud and Stitcher. And of course, you can watch our beautiful faces on YouTube. Until next time, ta-ta for now.
You've just been listening to the Human Conversation podcast with Jules White. To find out more about the other work that Jules does, please visit her website www.liveitloveitsellit.co.uk. And if you enjoyed the podcast, then please do leave a rating and review on the platform you use to enjoy her show. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.